Okay, this is lesson 1, isometric projection. So if you have your booklet, we want to be working on page 2. If you don't have your booklet, in your knowledge organizer you should have some isometric grid paper like this that you can use, and then you just have a blank piece of paper. If you don't have either of those, there's a previous video in this section where you can either use a set square or you can make a set square and you can still draw in isometric. So this is your 30-degree set square that you want to be using in order to use isometric, but you need to see a previous video for that. So what we need to be looking at in this, we're going to be drawing in 3D. You don't need a light board like this in order to draw. I'm just using one so you can see the grid paper through it as to where I'm drawing. So the normal paper, you photocopy it, but you should be able to see through it. So if I just turn this bit off first, so we're just looking at drawing in 3D. So if we had just 2 houses, so here's house number 1, here's house number 2 on the side like this. So house number 1 is in 2D, house number 2 is in 3D. What we then want to do, if we want to work out why it's called 2D and 3D, so the D stands for dimension. So this has 2 dimensions. So this dimension here being width, this dimension here on the house meaning height, this dimension here on this one is also width. This one here, which this one doesn't have, is called depth. That gives it the 3D effect. And this one is also height. Now some of you may have already drawn in 3D at primary school, so you may have drawn something like this. So if I draw a cuboid, but each time I'm measuring the lines with a ruler, so this is 2 centimeters, this is 2 centimeters, this one is 2 centimeters, and if I send the depth lines back at 2 centimeters, around about a 45-degree line, something like this. This is called oblique, and we try and avoid using this technique only because if I wanted to draw a cube, all these lines are the same length, they're all 2 centimeters, but it looks like it goes further into the distance, so it looks more like a rectangle. So we try and avoid using this technique called oblique. Instead, any horizontal lines that we would normally want to draw, we're going to draw them at an angle of 30 degrees. So at the top here, your rules of isometric are your verticals are vertical, but your horizontals are drawn at 30 degrees. So this is your horizontal, so it's drawn at an angle of 30 degrees, which the grid paper's in. So if I want to draw in isometric, what we need to do is I'm going to put the grid, the light on so you can see that. I'm going to pick the lowest point, somewhere where the grid crosses over here. I'm going to go vertically upwards. I'm going to go 30 degrees to the left and 30 degrees to the right. So this is going to be the front of the block, so this will be my width. So anywhere along this line, I'm going to pick the width, so put a marker there, send a vertical line upwards. Anywhere along here is going to be the depth, so I'll do it a bit narrower. This is my depth, send that vertically upwards. So the important thing now is pick your height, but what we need to do is go along that line, along here. As soon as it hits that point, it's going to change direction, so it's going along this line, so it keeps going and going and going and going, but this could carry on all the way off the page if we wanted to. What we need to do is find a reference where it stops. So this one's going to go at 30 degrees all the way along here. It's going to hit this point, and then it's going to change direction, and it'll hit this marker, which gives us our isometric cuboid in the middle there. What we can then do, if I repeat that process, so I pick my lowest point, I'm going to go 30 degrees one way, vertical, 30 degrees the other way, pick the width of it, so I'm going to go vertical, pick the depth of it, so I'm going to go vertical at that point, pick the height, so this line here is at 30 degrees, which is parallel with that one. This line here is at 30 degrees, it's parallel with that one. This line here is parallel with this one and that one, and this line goes here at 30 degrees. So the next stage would be to try and open these boxes up, these cuboids. So if we imagine that they're opaque, so this has got a solid surface here, this is a solid surface, this one could be a solid surface, this one is a solid surface. We want to create the illusion that you can go inside them. So on this bit, I should be able to see this corner, but it's how far down can I go with this corner. So what I need to do is use this corner here, call that A, this corner B. So I'm going to come in at A at 30 degrees, it's going to go that way. And at B, I'm going to come in at 30 degrees across here. It's going to hit there, and I'm going to go vertical upwards. So it creates the illusion that you can go into that box. This one, if we did it with this one, so I'm going to call this corner A, call this one B. So at this one, I'm going to call that one C. If I brought C in, so it's how far do I want that to go in. So that line cannot really be bigger than this line here. So it can be smaller, but it can't be bigger. But if I use B, I'm going to come in at 30 degrees across here. It should then hit that line. And if I bring that down at A, it's going to hit that line. So this bit here will be the back corner here. So it creates the illusion that you can go in to the object. So the task is just to draw a series of cuboids of varying widths, heights and depths and see if you can open up the sides.